Hi everybody, it's Alisa Marie here in the Sweet Life Kitchen, and today I want to show you guys how to take your apples that you may have sitting in your cupboard that need to be used and some frozen cranberries and turn that into a beautiful applesauce that you can put in your jars and you can water bath and make them shelf stable so that you can give them as gifts to your family and your friends. So let's get started. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to take your apples and I want you to cut the ends off like so. And then I want you to peel them. You don't have to get all the peels off, but you need to get the majority of the peels off because we're going to emulsify this, which makes it turn into applesauce. And you don't want a whole lot of chunks. A little bit won't, like that, won't be a problem, but a lot would be. Wouldn't be very tasty, especially for the children. So you're going to cut these guys like so around that core. And then into a pan. Pan, I want you to cut them again and toss them in there. And I'm going to just keep doing that until I get done with all of my apples. Last one. It's nice to be able to use up these apples because they are wonderful, but sometimes you buy more than you need. Sometimes you start working on something and you think you're going to need a whole bunch of stuff like an apple pie or whatever, a recipe, or the kids just don't eat them up. So this is a great way to figure out a way to use them, and it doesn't take that long to do it. And you're not being wasteful. On a side note, for those of you guys who are paying attention to me in the Sweet Life Garden, what you can do is you can take the seeds that are in these apples and you can put them in your refrigerator or your freezer for about a month or two and trick them into thinking that they are in wintertime and that they're hibernating, and then start the seedlings in your little seed starters and start planting some apple trees in your yard so that you're not going to buy any more apples. You're just going out in the backyard and picking them. And so I'll be doing that in another episode. I've got some apple seeds in there that I'm going to be working on this fall. So be looking for that on the Sweet Life Garden channel, or playlist rather. Okay, so now we've got the pot full of these cored and sliced and peeled and diced apples. And to that, I'm going to add 1 bag of frozen cranberries. And I'm going to keep a really close eye on this on the stovetop. I'm going to put it down on low and keep stirring it and keep working it together so that we can get the cranberries to pop and the apples to cook down, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay guys, so what I've done is I've added some water and I've let these apples and cranberries boil down to where the apples are soft. And so the only thing that's in this pot are those apples that we did the coring of, and we had added a bag of the cranberries to it. And I added about 4 cups intermittently of water and have kept stirring it down for about 45 minutes. And now it's to this consistency here where you've got a goopy, cranberries have all popped and have all sort of dissolved into the apples, and the apples are soft. And so the other thing I've got going on is I've got the water bath in the back boiling, getting ready for the cans. The jars, lids, and seals have all been sanitized and they're still warm. So you want warm jars, warm lids, water going. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take those apples and cranberries off the stove top. Whoopsie daisy. And we are going to take it over here and very carefully we're going to add the spices, the lemon, and the sugar. So what I want to do here is I want to take about a tablespoon of cinnamon. And I'll have this recipe in the episode information below, so don't worry about that. But about a tablespoon, a little bit less, of cinnamon. It's this point that I want you to actually add your spices and add your lemon. Your lemon is done. It's done in order to raise the acidity so that you're safe to do the water bath canning, and that this will be okay in your pantry for up to a year. So it's really important that you think about the measurements of that. So it's 6 pounds of apples, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And so I think we've got probably here about 2 pounds of apples. And so I'm going to do, just to be on the safe side, because it doesn't bother me to have lemon in there. And that's what scares everybody with all this canning stuff. It scares everybody because if you don't put that lemon in there and raise the acidity of the apples, or anything for that matter that you're preserving or canning, you run the risk of getting everybody sick. And so I always err on the side of caution, and Nana always erred on the side of caution. And so an extra lemon is not a big deal. Staying in the water bath a little bit longer, not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this 1 tablespoon, which would have been okay for 6 pounds, and I'm going to add just a little bit more just because. And then I'm going to add my sugar in. Get everything out of the way and get this scooted over to me. And so this is going to be, now if you don't want to be sugar, if you don't want to do sugar, you probably could do something else. But the thing that I want you to think about is the cranberries. So if you decided not to do cranberries, you probably could get away with not doing any sugar. But if you have cranberries in there, you know those are tart. So I have to put the sugar in because, number one, we're not worried about the sugar, and number two, I don't want to have applesauce that's so tart that we can't even eat it. So that's the reason behind that. So I'm going to put 3½ cups of sugar to this mixture, and then I'm going to very carefully, and I want you to be very careful too if you decide to go this route. There's a couple of different ways. I mean, you can potato mash them, you can do all kinds of stuff with them, but you got to get these apples turned into applesauce, and the easiest way to do that is to do a emulser. And the kids gave me this for Christmas one year because I asked for it, and it's been a wonderful tool to have in the kitchen. So you just go around like that and start chopping up all those apples in that hot liquid, and while you're doing that, you're going to actually also incorporate in all your sugar and your lemon and your cinnamon. Okay. So I think I have apple and cranberry soup. That's what it looks like anyway. And I don't see or feel any more of those apples getting caught up in the undertow of that fantastic sauce. So I'm going to lay this over here so I can work properly. And then I'm going to take one of my jars, and I'm going to find my ladle, and I'm going to use my funnel. And that was a good catch. And I'm going to put my applesauce, pour it rather, into my jars. And the main thing here is you want to be conscientious of your headspace, which is the spot between the lip of the jar and the top where that seal is going to go down, because you need to have about 1 inch of headspace so that whenever you do the water bath, the applesauce can have a little bit of room to expand, and then it's going to seal properly for you, and you won't have to worry about putting that in the refrigerator because you'll be able to have made it shelf stable. And we're going to be right at perfect on that. All right, so that one is done. I'm going to keep going until we get all of these guys filled. All right, so next step is I want you to take a dish rag and make sure, and actually I don't need to do it because that with my finger is the only little spot that had any applesauce on it. And so what you do next is you take your lids and you put them down on top of your jars, and take your screw top and put that down on top of that, like so, like that. Remember, these jars are warm still from being sanitized, as well as obviously applesauce is warm too. And we're gonna, got a little bit of goop-de-doop right there. That was on the outside. Just be careful that what the seal is touching is glass with no goo on it. guys. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my jar holder, and I'm going to submerge these guys down into the water bath. And the thing that I want you to pay attention to with that is, as soon as it goes in, obviously that water's not going to be boiling anymore. So once the water's boiling, then I want you to set your timer and make sure that you have this on for about, I'd say 30 minutes is about a good spot for Texas, and what I normally do for applesauce here. But check the website too, because your altitude's going to change that number. It might be a little bit more depending on where you are in the world and where you are watching me. You hear this? I don't know if you can hear it. You can hear that one. They're not sealed, right? We know that. But once they are out of the water bath, these guys should either pop or not. And if they don't pop, don't worry about it. The main thing is check them. Check them with your finger. If they're wiggling, they got to go to the refrigerator. And if they're not wiggling, that means that they've sealed and they can go to your pantry. I will see you soon. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. This is just another wonderful way to use the fruit in your kitchen. If you have any value in all of this crazy stuff that I'm doing in the kitchen, please do me a favor and like and share. Ring that bell, because each week in the Sweet Life Kitchen, the Sweet Life Garden, the DIY, and of course Friday nights at 6 o'clock, my Martini Talks, we're dropping episodes with all different ways to plant things, grow things, make things, and of course cook up some deliciousness for your family. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.